Assalamu alaikum. Today we are having a very special guest, and it is Mr. Salman. And Mr. Salman is a resident and a citizen of USA, which is the United States of America, and he's serving as the assistant vice president in the Chubb International, and he's also a firefighter and a fire police officer, which is a great achievement that you are doing two things at the very same time. Must have been really tough. So, up to you, Salman. I would really like to know that what is the current situation of COVID-19 in the USA?
All right, so taking what you've said into account, Hassan, thank you for having me with you today. But I'll get to the point as to what you've asked. So there are a couple of things and a couple of factors that are factoring in to the way that how COVID-19 or the coronavirus, as normally known by people, is acting up in the USA. First of all, there are a good amount of states or provinces, as you guys call it back there, in the United States. Every state is you could say an autonomous body, and everybody's response has been totally different. Throughout the United States, yes, the numbers had surged in the beginning, but now, especially in my state, I'm from the state of Connecticut. Right now, there are 4 states that have got COVID-19 totally under control, and Connecticut is one of those states. The rest of the states, COVID-19 is still at large. People or the states have been unable to basically contain it. And the way that this has kind of played further during this entire 2.5 months since COVID-19 has been there, a lot of people have been affected. Now, luckily for me, I work in the information technology sector, so IT folks have not been majorly impacted. Telling you about myself, I majorly used to work from home. And then again, as you can see in the background, I've got my entire gear with me. Business-wise, IT was not affected that much, but again, the subdomain of the information technology sector that I'm in is insurance. So you can't live without insurance in the United States. You need to have some kind of insurance. So insurance companies were not hit that badly. So that kind of takes care of the part as to what did I get from a work-wise perspective. Secondly, from an overall perspective, the average American, you would say, has got multiple job roles that they do. We've got people who work at McDonald's, we've got people who work at retail stores, we've got people who are in the farming industry, we've got people who work white collar jobs. Now, people who work on a daily wage, let's say you work at a gas station or you work at somewhere to name a few, let's say you work in a retail store or you work in a grocery store, you work in a shopping mart. All of those got to be closed. So people who were working daily wages, they were heavily affected. Now, one of the things that is about America or the USA is that it is not comparable to a state like England or Canada. Over there, people are supported by their governments. They get, let's say if you've got a few children, let's say per child, you'd be getting a support check for it from the government. But over here, nothing like that happens. To aid the people of the United States, what President Trump did was that he signed off a stimulus check. And that stimulus check was given to different families as a one-time payment to support them from recovering from this COVID-19. Now, another thing that happened was the amount that came off, well, I would say somewhere between $1,200 to $4,000 per family, totally depending on what kind of criteria that you qualify for, is only a one-time payment. So, but if this prolongs, $4,000 isn't much for people to survive if you have got rent to pay, you've got kids to support. So things like this have definitely been affecting the people of the United States. Now, talking about other states or how travel is being limited or how different people throughout the states are literally trying to cope up with COVID-19. In our state, as I said, people in the beginning, they were very careless. However, like literally, as I've seen in other countries too, schools were closed. I've got 3 kids. All 3 kids had to be homeschooled by my wife again, with the teachers playing in a support role. So the roles literally shifted. So if we had mothers who were working or who were still working from home, and husbands were still working, people were in a situation where they couldn't focus on their kids as well. It's because kids were being homeschooled too. Luckily, the schooling sector or the school districts that we have, what they started to do was they started to give out homework in a specific pattern that won't affect the parents and that won't affect the children learning at home also. So that kind of helped out really well. And luckily my wife doesn't work, so hats off to her in supporting the children and their daily learning. But in terms of other people, other ladies who do work, I would say they would have been heavily affected. I've had friends who've been going crazy with the fact that, oh, I need to teach the kids, I need to go to my meetings, and then my husband has been in a meeting at the same time. There's been lots of collision, lots of confusion. Right now, 2.5 months into COVID-19, people are really frustrated. They want to get out. So states have started to open up in a chronological fashion. States who are trying to handle COVID-19, again, I'll talk about my state, it's been partially reopened. They're trying to reopen states in a specific manner where they open up essential businesses first, then step by step, date by date, in different phases, they're trying to open up multiple other businesses so that the economy does not get to be hit in a much worse fashion. Now that's one point. The other point is that now, how do you contain all those people? The thing with COVID-19 is, again, being a first responder also, what I've seen is firsthand, people were not taking care, as I said. Even the masks, people took it very lightly. Oh, there's this virus, and oh, maybe it is there, maybe there's not there. That is the kind of mentality people had. But when things started to get serious, where people started to die from it, they started to get, our hospitals were so overwhelmed that New York, the hospital or medical emergency services didn't even have space to contain dead bodies.
So coming towards the last question that I've been writing about the psychological impacts of the COVID-19 on people. So what do you think as an individual? What was the psychological impact on you? Did you get afraid? Did you have the fear that you might die from it? Or what are you suffering from?
Exactly. This is a really good question, and I can really tie to it. Again, and the reason for that is being a first responder, even though people have been asked to stay inside, as I said, I've got 3 kids, right? I've got a wife to look out for, I've got 3 kids, and I'm on the front line as well with helping out people because I have to go out. There's a fire outbreak, I have to go out there. Somebody wants medical assist support, we have to be out there, right? So again, from my IT side, I was totally covered. I'm working from home. But then again, from this side of the world, I had to kind of go out and support people. So psychologically speaking, even if my wife was going out for groceries, I was like, okay, wear a mask, wear gloves, keep hand sanitizers out there. And here's the sort of mentality that people had here. The day that they said, oh, you need hand sanitizers, toilet papers, you need face masks, all of that. From
were all these things available? Were all these things available in the stores, and were they available at a cheaper cost?
So initially, people started to hoard all of them. Toilet papers was nowhere. Masks, nowhere. Gloves, nowhere. Even the hospitals had lack of personal protective equipment. The N95 masks that you may have heard of, the hospitals that were getting them, the masks were expired. The N95 mask has got an expiry date tied to it because of its filter that is used in it. The masks that even the hospitals were getting, or let's say the fire departments or anybody else they were getting initially, were expired. There was a huge shortage because people had started to hoard them. Now, 2 months down the lane, what they've done is the grocery stores or outlets, they've started to contain it. They've started to make sure that a certain amount of these things are dished out to everybody who tries to buy them. They've started to enforce buying restrictions, which has started to alleviate the issue. So again, but coming in from a psychological perspective, my wife goes out, all of us were worried. Okay, hopefully nobody sneezes on her. It's that you're trying to protect yourself, but the thing is the other person doing the same or not? Because the mask, as you may have seen, the mask is for not for your own protection. The mask is for protecting others, because this is not an airborne disease. It's spread by droplets, as you know. So masks, PPE that you're using is for protecting others, not yourself. That's the first thing. And then I come back in, even if I have a slight cough, I get to be weird. Oh, come on. Hopefully I don't have COVID. If I've got a stuffy nose, because allergies and the symptoms of COVID-19, or let's say even a common flu, they overlap. So even if you've got a common flu right now, there's a good amount of pollen outside. You come back in, you're sneezing, your throat itches. You get to be in a psychological distress that, oh, come on. What is happening? Is it really COVID, or is it what? And I'll be honest, personally, I get to be paranoid at times. But then again, in the evening or sometime after, when this allergy outbreak passes, I'm like, okay, yeah, it was just an allergy, forget about it. The next time you go out and come back in again, even if you go and take some takeout, you're like, okay, does my glass have COVID-19 on it? Does the food that I'm being given has COVID-19 on it? Whatnot. So your mind is totally thinking about a good amount of things that you wouldn't think in a normal flow of life. So that's what
to sum it up, I'll just say that by talking to you, I just came to know that even if it's the USA, which is considered the
superpower,
most modern and the most advanced a superpower, even a superpower is like very worried about this COVID-19. It's really affecting it a lot. May it be the economy or may it be the social life. So we really wish that these things can be eliminated as soon as possible and the world can continue in its regular course, because things have been very bad lately and the economies are really in a very bad state. And it was wonderful to talk to you, Mr. Salman, because you have the first-hand experience. You are also a firefighter, so you actually know what the situation is. So it was very kind of you to give us your precious time. And to just for the last thing for our audience is that the purpose of this effort is basically to promote citizen journalism, which is our little effort to give this idea that you don't need big media outlets to tell you what the truth is. You just need one reliable person that would actually tell you the real story. So even if the whole media is not reporting, the whole scenario is very strange, you can just go and talk to a person that's actually there, or you can go to any reliable source of information that you have. And that would be as good as any media channel. It might not be having a label of CNN. Definitely have its
man,
own
I totally
impact.
agree with it. This is the best way to get the word out and the actual things that are being reported on ground. So truly appreciate what you're doing. Good work.
So thank you, Mr. Salman, and it is an Allah Hafiz from my side. I'll definitely take you on board once again when the COVID-19 is over.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz.